everyone. Welcome to the Honeyflow talk show. I have a special guest that's coming up, and we're going to talk a little bit about her too. And, this show is a really special show to me. Hey, DJ Cal Money D, I see you coming through the chat room. Greetings. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate that too, as well. So, this show is going to be extra special, you guys, because it's just been laid on my heart. The past week, many people are just surviving the holidays right now, with Christmas, with New Year's. So many things have happened in the last couple of years with the pandemic. It's been a lot of hard times for a lot of people. Last week was definitely a difficult show for me last Wednesday, waking up in the morning and hearing about DJ Twitch's passing, with him committing suicide and finding out a few other losses and people that have passed away. So it was just really laid on my heart before all these incidences happened. I started really thinking about, what's going on in the world around us and what can we do to kind of bring hope. So surviving the holidays is really special because, it really makes me think that title, surviving the holidays, what exactly is that? It could be, maybe you're going through a loss, maybe you lost a loved one, which I can totally relate to. I've lost a lot of people, a lot of friends that I've shared on my show, the last couple shows, of course. And maybe it could be a breakup. Maybe it could be breaking up with someone over the holidays. It could be financial losses or pressure that we're dealing with. Because in Canada, they say that there's a recession, of course, coming, but they said inflation has raised higher than 36%, which is unbelievable. We see that in the fuel, we see that gas prices, we see it going to the grocery store. I'm sure you guys see it buying Christmas gifts worldwide. So these are some things I was definitely thinking about. Some people may have also had a job loss. They could have also family dysfunction. It could be really hard for the holidays. So the holidays is not always blissful and happy for everyone. But the show is definitely going to be a unique show that's not just talking about all the losses and all the things that are happening in the economy, but we're really going to actually dive deep and have a real honest conversation. And I'm going to bring my friend in too. We're going to definitely talk about, having hope and faith in these times as well, amongst everything happening in our world. What can we do to have a conversation about that and provide that? And I want to bring in a good friend. She was actually the second person I met when I moved to Toronto in 2009, which is extra special. We've had a lot of interesting ups and downs too, a lot of crazy adventures as friends, but I consider her more than a friend, definitely a sister to me. She's done a lot, in media, in broadcasting. She's worked for large, TV media, one of the largest media stations in Canada. And she could share on that as well. And not just broadcasting that she's done, guys. And that's how I met her at a media event. So we're going to talk about that too. And also, she also worked at the hospital in the ICU unit. So she's done a lot of interesting jobs throughout the pandemic that can kind of give us a real reality of, some of the things that she's seen. And how, and she also has quite the story. We talk about IL-2, but let's pull her in. I'm going to be done talking here. Wanted to give you a mini intro, want to pull her in and have a great discussion today on how are we actually surviving the holidays? What are we doing this Christmas, this New Year's, this year? What do we see? And how are we going to survive that as well? So let's bring in, her name is Christine. So let's bring her in. Hey, how you doing, girl?
Hey, good. How are you? Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And just racing. She was beating traffic, guys, to come here.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you guys have, if you could see the comments, Christine. If you click comment, she's new to StreamYards and Twitch, guys. This is her first time on Twitch. But on your
Oh, okay.
laptop, if you click comments, you're going to see some of the comments coming throughout the
Okay.
show. So
Yeah.
if anyone has anything to ask about you and everything. So yeah, I'm glad you're here with me. We're definitely going to be talking about surviving the holidays and just what that means to you as well.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to kind of have people learn a little bit about your background, like in broadcasting, where you came from, because it's really interesting too, working for the newsroom and some of the things you've done.
hmm Yeah, so I originally started in radio. I went to school for radio broadcasting because I wanted to be a music DJ like DJ Honeyflow. Well, not DJ, but on the
VJ?
radio.
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, that's so nice.
With Tina. How you
Um,
doing, Tina?
so then I ended up working at a few big name radio stations, and then I ended up going to the CBC because my friends in radio school, they were like, "You need to go on the CBC. This is you." It really isn't me, but they're like, "This is you. You got to do it." And so I started radio at CBC Radio. That was really good for about a year and a half. And then the money dried up because radio, it's such a smaller venue than something like television. You need so many people in television to produce a show. And like there's just so many moving parts in TV. So I joined CBC TV and I went into news, and that was a totally different experience. Like I didn't have a background in journalism, I didn't have a background in news. This one executive producer just threw me in the water and said, "All right, you want to try it? Here you go." And the first day after my first shift, I came home and I crawled into a ball because I was like, I have no idea what this world is. It's like beyond me. So yeah, that's how I started.
And you also, hey, you're getting more love. A lot of people coming. Junior says hello to you, Christine. Her first
Hello.
time on Twitch, guys. Her first time, with
Oh,
this
that's so
whole
nice.
streaming thing and StreamYards. Uh, DJ Jonah, great to see you again. Thanks for coming through as well. Thanks, you guys, for coming through. I appreciate that. And oh, we got DJ in the building. How you doing, DJ? Great to see you. Let us know where you're from again. I think I forgot where you're from. Let us know. So you also work for Jazz FM too, as well, right?
Yeah, so I volunteered. Like my first thing in radio was, my sister was like, I was kind of depressed because I wasn't in school. I was too afraid to try to go for my dreams. And my sister said, "Don't feel sorry for yourself. Just go and volunteer at a radio station." So I picked Jazz FM because at the time I was going through a jazz phase, and I was their front desk girl. And then through that, they had a lot of like on air fundraising. And one of the blues hosts, he asked me to go on air just to talk during the fundraiser. So that was my first little taste of being on live FM radio, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and I always believe that you should be in front of the camera too. Like she produces guys, and she's worked in a lot of interesting things in media, like news stations. I remember her first time she was debating, hey, should I go into broadcasting or not? And the thing that is really interesting in how we met, guys, is I met Christine in the mall at a CBC live event, like standing in line because we both love media. So we're both standing in line. She was right behind me, I believe. And she was just like really, really nice and personable. And I actually thought you were Tanya Kim from E Talk, which I find hilarious now because just because you're both Asian, you guys don't look similar, but for some reason, you just reminded me so much of her. And for all you guys that don't know Tanya Kim, she does a lot of broadcasting here, right? I think she's still on E Talk as well, Canada.
Mhm.
But I turned around and I looked at you and I'm just like, oh, are you Tanya Kim from E Talk? So it was pretty funny, but it was interesting because like her life actually moved to CBC, like in media years later.
Mhm.
And years prior, we were in a lineup, like just trying to meet the news anchors from
Mhm.
CBC. So it's
Yeah,
kind of interesting how things
true.
go in full circle, right?
Yeah, definitely. I never
Now,
actually made that connection
oh,
until
really?
now. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today and just like how do you feel too? Because sometimes, when you want something so bad, like a dream or a vision, or you're like, okay, I want to be here. And then you realize like maybe it's a little bit different, like being like working there compared to what you're thinking, right? Like I
Mhm.
felt that too when I worked with some radio stations too, as
Mhm.
well. Like you're like, this is the dream, this is where I want to be. And then I don't know, it just kind of feels a little bit different. Like what would you say with that too? Did you have a similar experience or
Yeah, so, like, when I was in radio school, they would always tell us, like, if you're in radio, expect that you can transition into TV, And if you're in TV, expect that you can transition into radio. It's kind of like they're like cousins, right? And so for some reason, like I would always tell people at work, like, I'm going to radio school, I'm going to radio school. And everyone would be like, why don't you do TV? I see you in TV. And it just kind of like, I don't know, I felt like it kind of like, for me, I've always wanted to be behind the camera. And except for Much Music, but that was a different thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, I always wanted to be behind the camera. So radio felt like a safe place because it's just your audio. No one's seeing your face. No one's, seeing if, your hair's out of place, which I'm just trying to check my hair out right now.
That's
Um,
why I wear so many hats, don't worry, girl. My hair's always, like, kinda crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when I transitioned from radio into TV, I felt like an imposter. And I know a lot of people in media talk about like imposter syndrome, but I really did because a lot of these people they had backgrounds in journalism and doing hard news in college for many years. And I was just playing radio on an FM college station before I got in there. So
Mhm.
I felt very unqualified. Um, but there were times where I was in the newsroom and it was a very glamorous, CBC newsroom, news network. It was like this giant space where people were at different pods and it was all very serious and very important. And, people would walk up and down this runway and they were just, you could just tell they were proud to be there. But for me, I just felt like I was in this fishbowl and I was like not a fish. I was a frog or something. I just felt so out of place. And there were times where I was just like, God, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I'm not qualified and I don't even know if I like it. But I really sensed that, God was telling me, just give it some time. Just wait. Just keep going.
Mhm.
So that turned into more, but I guess we'll get into that later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And then people probably perceive you a different way because I noticed that being on radio too. As soon as you say the name, like all of a sudden people place you on a different pedestal just by that name. Like, did you find that
Mhm.
with CBC as well? Like, as soon as you said that, that's why I would never really say too much the jobs I was doing or the positions,
Yeah.
because people almost treated you differently, which was always kinda seemed a bit bizarre to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like if I told people I worked at the CBC, like everyone's eyebrows would raise and their voices would be like, "Oh, wow." Like that was always the response I got. And like, I don't know, I didn't really listen to CBC or watch CBC really. Like my mom listened to CBC, so I didn't really think it was this cool thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm. You know the main anchor? I can't remember his name. Oh my gosh, he's been on CBC probably for, like, 30 years. Like, this is gonna sound really he's just like a tall, skinny white guy, I don't know, but wanna hear something funny? I know
Mm,
it's kinda hard to just say, "Oh, tall, skinny white guy," but it is hilarious, Christine, because you know me, I say random things all the time. I just did a wedding, last year, and this guy was in media. You might know him. I think he works for Yes TV and worked for all the TV stations too. So there was a tall, skinny white guy that got up on the floor and he started dancing. And I got on the mic. I said, "Hey, you look like an actor. I know who you are. Like I don't know who you are, but I know who you are. You're an
mhm.
actor." And I yelled it on the mic. And then the groom started laughing and he whispered to me, "Hey, that's the main anchor for CBC." Like to keep
Oh,
it kind of quiet because when they're out, they don't want to be really known, right? But
right,
I
right.
went on the mic and I was like, "Hey, you're an actor." And everyone was laughing because they knew who he was, but I'm just like, I know this guy's face from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name though. I'll have to look it up, but he was really nice, and gracious. He just kind of laughed, but he didn't say anything. He wouldn't say who, and he's been on CBC or, for like 40 years. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty interesting. And then also, guys, she also had another interesting job too, not just in media, but also you worked in the hospital too. So
Mhm.
you saw, I'm sure, quite a few things in the ICU unit too.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, so I've worked in the ICU. I worked about
Wow.
7 years, and so I was there pre-COVID, during COVID, and a little bit after COVID, and so I've seen it all. I've seen people walk in on stretchers looking for their purse, and then within an hour, they were flatlined, just gone. There's things called a code omega, which is like massive blood loss. Mostly just sick people, very sick people, and some of them go home and some of them don't. So it kind of really, I had my dream job, like working in broadcasting, and then being in the ICU kept me very present. And this is real life, and it just kind of grounded me.
Yeah, like, I'm just thinking, you know, I can just kinda give an outside perspective, but it really probably seems like, those jobs would probably be intense because when you think about the news, like, you're listening to negative news, 15 hours a day, like, however long you're there, it's constant, constant, like, driving fear, driving a recession, driving, like, all these things with the economy. You don't see too much positive news on the news, and then of course if you're going to the ICU unit, now you have another heavy job where you're seeing people actually pass away. Like, how did you actually get through those, because those are intense jobs. It's not just a
Mhm.
job like, hey, I'm gonna just go to my 9 to 5 or go to an office. Like, you're really seeing a lot of different things, especially throughout the pandemic. Like, how did you kind of get through that as well with those
That's
jobs?
that's a really good question, and there was never, like, a plan to be in these really intense jobs. It just ended up happening that way, and, I always question myself about that too. Like, did I subconsciously choose these jobs? Do I like drama and intensity? But I guess I would say, like, during the pandemic, when they were starting to talk about COVID and that COVID was coming and that, we didn't know what to expect, I was just like, what am I going to do? I think I'm going to have to quit, right? I'm going to have to quit my job. But I was already so locked into that job for about like 13 years or maybe 12 at the time that I just said, you know what, I'm going to have to do it. Like one time, we have this book where I would admit the patients and I would write down their diagnosis. And one time a doctor told me to write Ebola. And so if anyone knows anything about Ebola, I was like, "Oh my goodness." Like, I think that was the bigger scare for me than COVID, but because nobody knew what to expect at the time, we were all scared, right? And everyone was able to stay home. People didn't have to go to the office, but people in healthcare, we were right there the whole time, every day, all day. And so I think a lot of it was my faith. I think, just having to trust God in those moments where you don't know what the outcome will be. I really had to plug into my faith and say, God, like, you know the number of days I'll be on this earth, and, I have to trust you with everything.
Oh, that's really deep. I was just trying to fix something as I was listening to you too. Something
You're
sorry,
okay.
so I had you on mute for a second. No, that's really, really deep. And you guys join the conversation too. It's not just us talking, but if there's anything that comes to mind that you want to just even comment on throughout the show, then definitely do this because this show is talking about surviving the holidays.
Mhm,
And really, you made a good point too when we were in a phone conversation. You said, "What do you mean surviving the holidays?" It's like surviving the last couple years,
mhm.
And like, what would you say? Like, how you said your faith like played a huge part in that, but like, just how did you kind of survive the last couple years? Because it's been a lot. Like for anyone that's known, Canada has had the harshest lockdowns in the world. I still feel locked down a little bit. Like you even know how much I've changed. All my friends have known how much I've changed in the pandemic going to this
Mhm.
world of online and avoiding so many, like, the outside world, basically.
Yeah.
But, like, I guess what did you kinda learn through, the pandemic and kind of the jobs that you were in? Was there anything that you kinda learned from or some of the things that you saw as well?
Um, how deep do you want me to go into this? Because, like, in terms of what I learned, um, cherish the people in your life. You know, I think that the pandemic, unfortunately, really separated people, whether it be family, friends, colleagues, people with different viewpoints. I think, now several years later, everyone's like, okay, well, let's just bury the hatchet. But at the time, like it was tough, especially, those of us that were in the ICU that had one view of something and then others that had another. It just really severed friendships. And, I guess I learned that, it's easy to watch the news and to listen to the news and to be scared by the news. I think right now people don't even realize that they're like probably even addicted to the news, right? Like they're on social media, they're scrolling, they're reading stories, they're watching videos. And, it's just captivating our minds, captivating, trying to get time, trying to get us to be distracted, whether it's real or imagined, or, whether something's fake news, real news, we're just being inundated. So one thing I learned, there's a lot of things I learned, but I guess to just take things, back in the day, we never had social media. We never had the
Hmm.
internet. So we would watch news at 6 and 11. And whatever happened in between those hours, it was like your life. But now
Hmm.
I feel like everyone's pulled into this world where it's like, this is the top story and we all got to be, in the know. And I think that can cause a lot of anxiety. I think that that didn't help with people's fears of death, people's fears of dying. Um, and just, yeah. So, like, I guess one thing I'd say is pull away from the news. You don't need to watch it every day.
And
I
this
know.
is funny. This is from someone that like worked in a news station, guys, and she's
Yeah,
actually saying that pull away from the news. Yeah.
absolutely. My old executive producer and I, we always said the news, if something is like cranked up to like, if something is like 60% important, the news will make it 80,
Oh
85.
wow.
Like it'll just, plus you're watching it over and over and over. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that doesn't help you, right? Like you just feel like it's more imminent, so much pressure. But really, back in the day they aired it once a day, once a week.
Mhm. So true. And I
Mhm.
just want to welcome, I always forget to welcome Facebook and YouTube. They're included. Twitch, we don't really talk about this stuff on Twitch. We leave it for Facebook. So a lot of Twitchers have actually left Facebook because it's just always this like negativity, right? Or people, like you said, a lot of division. So that's how
Mhm.
we found Twitch in the pandemic. And it's been amazing. And we stick to music and we don't really stick to too many like deep issues, but I just really feel that people, really definitely need it. Hey, Crazy Berry Town, great to see you. Thanks for coming through as well. Make sure everyone adds Crazy Berry Town. She does a fitness show also. She's got some really cool Instagram posts. I think I went through her entire Instagram yesterday. And the thing I don't like about Instagram though is it's kind of like Facebook now where only 2% of of your audience see your posts. Like
Mhm.
Instagram's actually getting like that now too.
Mm.
Because I haven't seen Crazy Berry Town's post at all until I clicked back on her, and now I'm starting to see her posts, which was weird. But anyway, she does these cute little things where she has like elves and like these little Barbie characters. You gotta check it out, Christine. It's super dope. Like, I think she's got like some talent there. I think she needs to quit her day job and do this actually full time. But like, she'll put these little elves and characters. You know that little, what is it called? Crazy Berry Town. I don't know if it's the
The
Grinch
gnome?
or
Like
who's
the
the little
gnome?
guy that you use for Christmas and you stick them everywhere,
It's like a
and then
garden, like a
you create
garden gnome.
you create little like stories and scenes with it. But it's hilarious. Like I thought it's so creative too how she does it. But I hope you're doing well. Oh, wow. Thank you, DJ Quad 4, for the resubscription. 3 months strong with me. Great to see you. Sorry, guys, if I miss you. I have to look at another computer and I forget. But yeah, we welcome Facebook and YouTube. And we didn't go to Instagram today, but we are going to have like a real, honest, real conversation today. Because it's just been on my heart for sure that people are just surviving the holidays, and for all you guys just coming in, Christine, she's worked for CBC, she works for Yes TV. It's amazing because she was the second person that I met in the city next to someone I went out with, and we were all in line together. So that was definitely a great memory. And how I met Christine, and it was a huge journey, meeting you as well. I don't even remember, but I would always run into Christine, in the city. And I feel like that's kind of how God works. Like I kept
Mhm.
bumping into you constantly, and I'm just like, oh
Mm.
man, I keep bumping into this girl alone. Like she's like, oh, who are you with? And I would see you at, what was it? It was it Aretha Franklin
The
concert?
TV Jazz Fest?
Yeah, Shaka Khan. I remember seeing you at Shaka Khan. I would see her, and it was crazy, guys, because it's quite the story. Like, and I won't go into it too much, but I did share quite a bit last Wednesday on my show. But the first person I met was my boyfriend at the time, and he actually passed away. And Christine met him in line with me at CBC. And then all of a sudden, I knew no one else in the city. I just knew him because I spent all my time with him, right? And
Mm.
then Christine was the second person I met, and she would see me everywhere alone. And I'm just like, oh man, I can't believe I keep running into this girl in such a big city alone. And but I feel like you were honestly like an angel that came into my life at that time too, because there are certain things that you remember that I don't remember, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, so like I remember meeting you and Kevin, and I remember him very distinctly, even though it was just very brief. Like when we met all together at that CBC, Meet These Anchors event, he was like in the background. Like he was like you and I were talking, and he was just standing off in the distance holding your jacket. And I remember him very well. Like it's funny. And another thing too is like, some people may not know this, but like God has been a huge part of our friendship and our story,
For
as
sure.
friends. And I remember at the time, seeing you. I remember I saw you at the TD Jazz Festival. I saw you at the Hard Rock Cafe with your friends, and I was with my friends. And I'm just like, oh, there's that same girl. And then I saw you once on the subway, and I just thought, like, but actually, it makes sense because we worked on the same street. We both worked on University Avenue.
But it's crazy though, because Toronto's like 14 million people. What are the odds I'm going to keep running into you? And I started getting embarrassed because, after he passed, I was just in such a crazy shock state,
Mm,
and this is, and I go back to it because we're going to talk about surviving the holidays, right? So I
mhm.
remember those moments in time. Actually, Christine remembered it and brought it up to me. I don't remember that moment, but I do remember that moment. I was like on a curb, like just lost it, like just breaking down. And I don't know how you were in my path, or if we were hanging out, I don't know. But you
I
mentioned
think
that we were sitting on a curb like near my workplace, and I
yeah,
was just talking about everything that happened. And I think at that time I was literally surviving the holidays. Like I was just trying to get by with such an unexpected loss.
yeah.
um
I
so that's
actually
Mhm.
remember
Go ahead.
actually, sorry to cut you off. I actually remember, yeah, you were going through grief, and I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that somebody very special to you had just passed. And, we were in the back street of like kind of like a back alleyway, just sitting there. And, I felt in my heart, I felt like God was saying, you know, be friends with this person, right? Like be close to this person. I really felt that in my heart. And I thought, okay, you know what I mean? Because I'd never been directed on people like that so much in
Mhm.
terms of like, hey, befriend this person. Like, um, so maybe because I didn't really know you, we didn't have any mutual friends, I didn't know who you were. But yeah, I really felt a strong pull to kind of keep in contact with you.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I think I was embarrassed, like, trying to just go through the motions and go to events like the Shaka Khan concert and go around the city and explore it, but then I kept running into you, and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
man, this girl's gonna think something's, like, wrong with me," because she's like, "Who are you here with?" I'm like, my friend's in the washroom. I'm, because obviously I was by myself. I was new in the city, right? But just what an amazing friendship, and just the time that has passed by from 2009, it's
Mhm.
just unbelievable. So I definitely do believe that he places people really special in your life for a purpose, and a mission. And the stuff we've seen some pretty radical things too.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of funny times together as well, like we've taken a lot of trips together. So Panama, I don't know if you ever, everyone always says that I'm a walking storyboard, and I feel like it is the true truth. Like you're always going to have some weird story hanging out with me, like in Panama, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just some of the situations that we've experienced there, different things too. Um, so yeah, I don't know. So I think going back, surviving the holidays, it that was something I was really thinking about because at times I think we all go through things, right? Like as much as the holidays may seem blissful for everyone else, we may think we're the only ones um, alone, kind of going through it, right? I would
Mhm.
say my survival mode is like not being with my family, like not being able to fly
Mhm.
out this year. So it's like you kind
Mhm.
of just want the holidays to pass quickly
Mhm.
and not think about it. Is there any moments that you had where you were just kind of surviving the holidays as well?
I think, you know, as a woman, like for a long time, like I was single, like not married, kind of living life, working. And so, any kind of holiday didn't have to be like Christmas, but like, Valentine's Day or all these holidays, you just couldn't wait for like it to pass so that people wouldn't ask you questions. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
But Christmas in particular, I think that can be hard for people who are not close to their family. Um,
mhm.
People that, if they do meet with their family, there's always like some sort of an argument, there's stress, there's strife. Um, Surviving the holidays for me is like, I don't really know because like for a long time I was surviving life, just trying to
Mhm.
survive life, getting through the day. It didn't even have to be a holiday day, but just like depending on what you're going through. And I was actually having a conversation about this with my friends recently, and it was like, okay, well, when you're single, they're like, when are you going to be married? When you're married, they're like, when are you going to have kids? When you have kids, when are you going to have the second kid? So there's always this pressure that is put upon us. And I think everybody means well, but when you're in it you just feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to have to face these people, I don't want to have to face the questions. um but yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true, right?
Hmm.
Or it could be with anything, like if you lose a job during this season, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, what's your next game plan? What are you doing with your life? You know what I mean? If it's not
Yeah.
that, what about a mortgage? Okay, you're this age, how come you don't have kids? Or if you do have kids? So
Hmm.
people are always asking questions, but I don't think they realize that, like, and we all do that. We all do that, right?
Hmm.
But we have to be sensitive too because people don't know. Like,
Hmm.
if you see someone that doesn't have kids, you may not know that person's situation or what happened. It could be a difficult loss going through things if someone can't have a child, or like there's just so many different dynamics that sometimes we have to be a little bit more sensitive you know
Hmm.
but I get that all the time during the holidays. Like my grandpa's 102 years old and he's still asking if I have a boyfriend, and I don't think he'll ever stop, and it is slightly embarrassing, but he always giggles and laughs hysterically, like, you know, and
I think
'cause
I think I would be looking forward to only him asking me because he's 102. It's
but
just
it's
a
embarrassing. Can you imagine almost your entire life and you don't even have like a long history of anything to even give your family? They're like, "What's wrong with you?" Like,
no.
so you do, but he does giggle, and he finds it hysterical because he knows I start getting squirmish, like I don't like talking about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
"Hey, Father Damien, how you doing? Good to see you." So, if there's anyone in the chat that wants to be bold enough and say what if they're surviving anything too, feel free. If you just want to lurk, that's okay. If there's anyone, the more we share, the more it actually helps someone else.
Mhm.
The more we share and are more open with our stories, then it definitely helps others, and that's the mission.
Mhm.
And I just want people to be aware that, like, because this is how I used to feel when I was surviving the holidays and couldn't go home for Christmas. It's like you're looking outside that window and it's like the Christmas story. Everyone has the feast around the table and everyone's getting ready for Christmas and you hear Christmas carols and the Christmas tree and like everything's perfect and you're outside the window just watching all of this,
Mm,
and I think I felt that many years, especially going through like an unexpected loss. Like you couldn't piece it together, but everyone around you looks so happy,
mhm.
and you're like, "Okay, why am I not there with everyone else?" Right?
It's
Have you
fake. It's fake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you ever had those moments or, have you ever felt like that too, where you're kinda looking through a window and everyone's like it's just like all perfect, kinda like how social media is a little bit?
Um, when I talk to a lot of people, I think commercials make it like that, but, like, if
Mhm.
you look out the window, or you hear stories of people, you're talking to someone who worked in the ICU, somebody who's been around news, nothing is perfect. There's so much heartache and loss and depression, and there's, like, a lot of things going on in people's lives, but then we have this escape like social media, and we can have something like an Instagram where every one of your best photos is up, and like then you do like the more like artistic photo with your latte, and it's just like not real life. Usually in real life your hair is all over the place, like your shirt has holes in it, like okay, at least mine does. I know, I was
Yeah.
like constantly looking at my hair in this. I would be playing with my hair every
This
time.
is why I wear hats all the time because I can't deal with my hair, but anyways, no, it's so true, it's so true. Oh, wow, thanks, DJ Quad, I appreciate this. DJ Quad 4 says, "Thanks for opening up the floor, Honey Flow. It was rough for 8 years, last 2 MVA and now soon to be 21-year-old, quadruplets, 2 boys and 2 girls. So the comments both you and Christine shared thus far, I can relate." Aw, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I think every family has some sort of dysfunction or every family has something. Every person is going through something, right?
Right.
Whether it's loss of a loved one, whether it's financial pressure, and I know everyone probably in the world globally has gone through a lot of financial pressure. As I mentioned earlier in my show,
Mhm.
they're just talking that inflation has increased by 36% in Canada. And
Wow.
they keep talking about how we're going into a recession. And that concerns me. It really does. Like it concerns me, like, how do I have faith? Like if God expects us to have faith and be optimistic and almost be excited for the future, like
Mhm.
how can we be excited when we have so many things coming at us, and everything I'm reading seems to be jumping off the page and coming to life.
Mhm.
Like, how can you be excited when you're in the ICU unit and you see like so many deaths and so many people, so much loss? Or when you're in the newsroom and you're hearing, okay, another hurricane or
Mhm.
earthquake, or the world's changing this way and animals are doing this. And like, how could you be excited seeing all these things around you, you know?
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think for me, when I worked in the ICU, the first day I worked there, the very first day, like I had my training, everything was like, it was just me on my first shift. And I got there at 7 in the morning, and there was one patient dying in the room in front of me, another patient
Wow.
dying in the room behind me. And my previous job to that, I worked as a barista at a coffee shop. So I was like playing good music, making lattes, giving cupcakes and cookies to people. And that was the extent of my work life, like
Hmm.
years prior to this. So um, I just remember like it was a really hard moment. There was a woman and she was dying of cancer, and there were her two kids. They allowed the two kids in the room as she was dying. And the social worker at the time said, this is good for the kids to be able to say goodbye. And this is going to be kind of intense, but the kids started crying and screaming and saying, "Don't go, don't go." And I tried to sit there. This is my first day on my shift. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, just be calm, like, don't say anything. But then the more they screamed, I just stood up, and I just had to walk to the other end of the unit. And I was like, I don't know what I decided to step into. And then the woman who hired me, Kim's running out and she's like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything? Are you okay?" And
Wow.
I just remember like leaving work that day and saying, "Why am I here? Like, how did I land in this job?" Right. And I just heard the Lord say, "Oh, you know what? Interesting story. Before I started my job, one day I was walking to work and I heard the Lord say, 'You're going to want to quit, but don't.'" And I heard this before I walked into the unit. I heard this before I started my first shift. And I thought, why would I hear that? You're going to want to quit, but don't. And then that first day on the job, I remembered those words and I remembered, like, I want to quit. Like, I want to quit right now. And I heard those words and I just trusted it and I stuck it out. And, I was there for 7, 8 years after that. And it was like one of my best work experiences to this day. So, sorry, what was your question? I
Yeah,
just got
that's
like,
crazy. No, I think I lost the question. That's okay. Well, I think it was just like, how do you have hope in these times when you have so much news, so much information, so many things coming at you, like how
mhm,
can you possibly wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to plan? Because before the pandemic, I mean, we were planning things, planning a mortgage, planning relationships, planning going out, planning doing this. Like it was a very, very different world, right?
mhm,
And maybe most of the world has returned. Like I know the States, I've noticed like, in the States, it seemed to be way more open and way more normalized. But
yeah,
in Canada, in Toronto, it definitely was not normalized for a very long time, you know?
mhm, right.
So I guess what keeps you hopeful for, with everything that's kind of happening and not feel overwhelmed? Like what keeps you hopeful for the future and to still plan for it?
Yeah. So like for me, like a lot of where I source my way of seeing the world is through God's word. So in the Bible, and there's so much hope to be had just through, even having a relationship with God if you do believe in God. Um, I think it's easy for us to have our attention diverted to the negative. And
Mhm.
especially now, there's like every day you're seeing like somebody dying or, and it's just like it can really weigh you down. But, when we have a relationship with God, you have something more than what's right here in the here and now. You have something, an eternal an eternal vision for yourself, right? Whether if that's in, okay, yes, amen. I'm just reading your comment. We have something more beyond now because let's be real, if we're looking at everything right now, it's kind of depressing. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
bleak. And those Raptors games or I don't know what, like that can only make you so excited for so long. Okay. Like those things just come and they go, like shopping, like men.
That makes me excited a little bit longer though, because
Sorry,
I
not
was like,
really.
me, I'm like a crazy fan, man, so that kept me excited
Yeah.
a little longer. But you're
Yeah.
right, sometimes we place so much emphasis on the things, it's like, they become our gods, really. Like, we
Mhm,
place so much emphasis on celebrities, concerts, like, and
mhm,
there's nothing wrong with, like, shopping and this and that, but one thing I realized when I did grief was, and actually this just really hit me like last Sunday.
mhm,
Um, I was at this grief share thing to check it out, and they said that you'll be dealing with grief, whatever that is. But they're like, if you go to all these other things, like for me, over shopping and overeating, that was like huge for me when I was going
mhm,
through all my losses. Like I kept shopping nonstop, kept eating out nonstop. It brings you on a high, and then you drop to a low, right? But they
mhm,
also talked about how some people can definitely go to multiple relationships, like sex, drinking, drugs,
mhm.
partying, just like anything to fill, over shopping, overeating. I don't know if there's any that you could think of, but they also said that, once you're done with that grief, you're still left with the consequence of whatever you decided to do, right? So if
Mhm.
you overindulge in food, obviously you're going to gain weight. If you overindulge in drinking, you're probably not going to feel great the next day, right? Or
Yeah.
drugs or whatever it is, multiple partners, probably could leave you a little bit like heartbroken, or maybe your heart could feel a little empty. But we don't talk about those things because,
Mhm.
everyone just glamorizes it, like like it's
Mhm.
fine, but no one really talks about how you feel afterwards. And although I didn't go to many of those things, I can say in my grief journey, I
Mhm.
definitely went to overeating and over shopping, like, and
Mhm.
I paid the consequence, obviously,
Mhm.
of it back then, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you think of that? I thought that was very powerful that I'm learning that a lot of these rules, I'm learning this now actually. A lot of these rules that are put in place for us aren't to punish us. I feel like it's God's way of like protecting us, and that's why he
100%.
says, "Hey, maybe do this or maybe do it that way." That's how I'm feeling now for the first time. I never really
And
felt it that way. What about you? Like, have you, from that statement, what do you think about that as well?
you mean like when did I turn from my ways of like trying to
Well,
fill a void?
Well, I guess, like, because some people don't really look at any consequence, right? Like, they're just like, "Hey, I'm gonna do me, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna," especially in this industry, right?
Yeah.
You see it quite a bit, but
Yeah.
no one really kinda talks about, like, I don't know if you have any stories, like, okay, how about we could actually talk about relationships? That would be, kind of a good thing to kind of dive into as well. Because I hear all the time on my show, "Hey, Honeyflow, like, where's Junior when we need him? I hope he comes back because he needs to hear this." Because Junior always says, "Hey," not to put him on the spot because we love Junior, but he's like, "Hey, girl, you got to get in the entanglement section. You got to get in aisle 5." So for
Mm.
all you guys that don't know, quickly, aisle 2, I talk about finding love in aisle 2 of your grocery store or restoring that love if you're married or in a relationship. It's complicated. There's just love for everyone in aisle 2. So it's just kind of a joke we've created on the Honeyflow show.
Mm.
Most people, and then we also talk about aisle 5, which is the entanglement section, that most people want to pull my hair and drag me to that section. They're like, "You got to try it once." But like,
What's
no
an
one,
entanglement exactly? Like, what's the
well,
definition?
I'm not sure. I don't think there is a real definition of entanglement. I
Anyone
don't,
has a definition, please write it in the comments.
it's whatever people feel entanglement is, It could be maybe cheating with someone, could be maybe having a few people, who knows? I don't really know. It's just
Okay.
anything that is probably not going towards like a solid relationship, like aisle 2 is more about like marriage and love and aisle 5 is probably everything else.
Mhm.
And most people are fine with that, right? But like, have you ever kind of like wandered to different aisles and what's your take on, I guess, I don't know how to
Those are different aisles. I used to go to all the
like
aisles.
I know I was trying to word the question because we know each other, but
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so and what outcome? Oh, yeah, see, DJ Jonah says clean up in aisle 5 6. So we do joke around, but I just want people to understand, like, you know, um, some of the decisions that we make, and we all make decisions. I surely have. I'm not perfect whatsoever. I'm growing every day,
Mhm.
right? But like you said that you've gone to other aisles, so what did that kind of bring you? Like, maybe if you could kind of share, with the audience or talk about that would be awesome too.
So, I mean, it's an interesting
What you
analogy,
like.
the supermarket. But I guess I would say that I went to the cookies and cakes and chips and everything bad for you aisle, and I stayed there for a long, long time. Yeah, so like growing up, I didn't like have the closest relationship with my father. And out of that, I tried to find, you know, I don't even think I was conscious of all these things, but I think a lot of women, when they go into relationships that are these non relationships, these kind of like here nor there, oh, he's good for right now, all this kind of talk, I think, you know, what comes like I think a lot of that's born out of hurt and pain and kind of feeling like you're giving up a little bit on relationships. I think for me, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I was trying to find acceptance. I was trying to, I wanted to be admired, adored, appreciated, all these good things, but my radar was a little off. So I was always interested in the guys that were never really available, like emotionally. They were tapped out. They were, cheaters. They were drinkers. Like they were people with addictions. I was in an abusive relationship, and that's a whole other show.
Mhm.
And just being with all these men that were never a permanent thing. And to be totally honest, I don't even think I wanted a permanent thing. I think subconsciously I sought these kind of relationships out because then I didn't have to have intimacy. Um, I didn't have to kind of, you know, like invest in this way where I'm opening up and I'm sharing and I'm bearing my soul, right? So then, you end up kind of in these non-relationships, or, if you want to call them entanglements, and it feels good, it seems good at the time, but then you're off to the next entanglement, or you're off to the next, thing that's going to burn out in the next few months. So, that kind of existence, like, it's fun at the time, and maybe your friends are doing it, and you know it's just like what the culture pushes on us, like, oh, you don't need to be married, oh, forget that, like, you can just kind of like have your fun, and right here, right now, like that, all that lingo leads to you entering into this way of living that, you know, at the time feels good and seems good, but a lot of it can become wasted time, heartbreak, failure, and like just things kind of constantly dropping off, um, being hurt in the process. What if the guy's a bad guy, and you're just so hooked on him, and you end up kind of going through an abuse cycle. Um,
Mhm. And it's women too. I just wanna clarify that. I know we're giving it from
mhm,
our perspective, but
mhm,
it's, like, not even just men as well, it's women as well, right? Because there's a lot of women out there, like, kinda playing games and doing a lot of stuff and kinda like, "Hey, I'm Miss Independent. I could do my thing. It's on my terms." I think too, as women, because roles have reversed so much for us, like, now we're financially independent. Now we're number 1 buyers in real estate. Like now it's almost like the power shift has changed. So
mhm,
now women, I kind of feel like, well, hey, I can get mine on my own terms and just dump a guy off and that's fine. Like I'm good. I can bring him in and just push him out and I don't need to get emotionally connected
mhm,
or like mentally or I don't need to get hurt, right? But
mhm, mhm.
even though they may think they're independent, it actually, I feel kind of backfires on them a little bit. I don't know. How do you feel with
100%.
that? Hmm?
100%. Like, I think, growing up in the time that I did, it was like, Miss Independent,
Mhm.
like the Beyonce song, and you were like going out.
I was like that. Well, not like that, but you know what I mean. I was definitely Miss Independent
No,
job.
we were.
I
We
can do
had
my
our own
thing. I can
places.
whatever.
Yeah, we
And
had our own places, we had our own jobs, we went
yeah.
out on the weekend, we didn't need a guy. Like, all of this talk just kind of,
Mhm.
like, creates this kind of lifestyle that is so good, like, good in the time in that moment, and I lived that life for many years. And it wasn't just because, society pushed it on me. There was a lot of fear and hesitation to want to connect. I had my own insecurities. I had my own fears. I didn't want to be rejected anymore. I didn't want to deal with the heartache and pain. So I would always just go to guys that like were not available. It was totally subconscious, but conscious in the same way. um, I think that that backfires on women. No matter how strong you are, no matter how much money you got, no matter, what place you have, where, like, how many assets you have going on. At the end of the day, we all go to bed at night and we put our head on the pillow and we're alone with our thoughts. And if those thoughts produce life, amazing. But a lot of the times I feel like living that lifestyle will, at some point your conscience catches up with you. And I think also too, yes, it can be draining at sometimes, like, your conscience catches up with you, and you do want something more better for yourself, you know? And for me, I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to break that cycle. It was a cycle, and it was a cycle for many years. And I speak freely about it because I know what God delivered me from. I know what God pulled me out of. And Maria, DJ
Mhm.
Honeyflow, knows a
Right.
lot of these stories. We would go out and I would tell her, and just the look of horror on her face, she would just be so appalled, and she would just be like scolding me, and I was just like, "What? Like, it's not that bad." Meanwhile, I was walking to my own grave, like, spiritually speaking. So
Sorry
yeah.
about that though. I've learned a lot though, like even meeting some human trafficking survivors and just like talking to some women, it's made me definitely less judgy,
Mhm.
like because I could never figure out why like people would keep going back to an abusive relationship. Like it would drive me crazy. It's like just
Mhm.
leave. Like just why, why are we talking about it for 5 hours and then you're back, and people are back again kind of thing. Like it would really because I care a lot about my
Mhm.
friends, but now I
Mhm.
kind of understand that there's a lot of gray areas. It's not it can be complicated, especially when your heart or you feel like you love someone or if
Mhm.
you're with someone that's like a narcissist or I don't
Mhm.
know, abuser, like I don't think it's just black and white, hey, I'm gonna leave.
Right.
Um, and I'm learning that now. Like it takes a while, I think, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it chips away so much at you that I guess you don't even know who you are anymore, after
Mhm.
that, after going through that. So you just take that becomes your normal pretty much.
I remember I was in an abusive relationship with someone for 2.5 years, and I loved him. I wanted to rescue him. He came from a bad family. I related to him. I wanted to save him. And I was just being dragged deeper and deeper into a pit that I didn't realize, just by connecting myself with him. And, God bless him. I pray he's well and I pray that his life has turned around. But he was into drugs. He was abusive. He was sleeping with escorts. He was doing all manner of things, taking all manner of drugs, and I couldn't save him. I couldn't rescue him. And you know, I remember I even called a hotline one night because I think, and anyone who's on here listening who's been in an abusive relationship, they know that when you're in it, you're so in it. And everyone could be screaming till they're blue in the face to get out, get out. But it's almost like you're stuck. It's like you're in quicksand and you're falling down, you're going deeper and you're stuck. And, you just almost kind of like the current almost wants to take you with it. And I remember I talked to somebody on the phone. It was an abuse hotline. She said, the statistics show that if a woman stays in an abusive relationship for over 5 years, she'll probably stay for the rest of her life.
Oh wow, really?
So,
It
yeah. So at the time, I was 1 year in. I was like a year and a half in. And I was like, okay, well, I have another 6 months. I have another, like, I would be counting the time in my head as I was going through this relationship. Like, I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be stuck. But I was still in it. I didn't just chop it off like right there. I didn't cut it off. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things I feel like, people really need help. They need support. If you have somebody that you love that's in this kind of a relationship, just love them, listen to them, keep listening to them. As long as you have them talking and you earn their trust, then that is good for you as the person who loves that person that can help them and keep that connection, but also for them because no matter what they're going through, to be able to share that freely is something that eventually, knock wood, it will help them come around.
Mhm.
Yeah, like if people just kind of shun you and say, "Oh, I don't want to talk to you," like you're hurting yourself, you're in an abusive relationship, sorry, I can't talk to you, then that person's even more isolated.
Hmm.
So so yeah, that's just my take on that, but yeah.
I feel like it's hard though if you're talking, like, say if you give advice like for a while, right? And
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, yeah, yeah. And then like the next day, like the person's back with the person. And
Mhm.
then it's like, and then the next day you talk about it for like 3 or 4 hours, and then the next day they're back again, like so that it's like, what do you do? What do you really do as a friend? Like
Right.
it's like you could give all the advice, but it really is up to that person, right? So I
Mhm.
think that's where maybe frustration could lie, like a lot more with people that don't understand not being in, because I could never figure it out why I see so many successful women,
Mhm.
right? And they'll go out with these guys like, I don't know, like you know, you look at Lauren London, Christina Milian, and going out with Lil Wayne and all these other guys, and I'm just like, I do not get it for the life of me. I just don't. You know, they're successful, they're beautiful, you know,
Mm,
but not to judge. Everyone likes what they like, but
mhm.
I don't know. It just seems like a lot of women are gravitated to like bad boys or bad guys, or do you think it's like that, or the challenge? I don't know of it. Like they could be
I think,
attracted to it.
like, at the risk of sounding, like, typical, I think a lot of women, um, it could be a self-esteem issue where they don't
Hmm.
think they can get better. And
Hmm.
so they kinda just hang out with whoever's there. And for me, I mean, it was that to a point, I would say. There was a little bit of that there where, if I liked somebody and they liked me back, great, like that's great. You know what I mean? I just wanted
Mhm.
affection. I just wanted these things. I think women can also be addicts. The ones that are dating the addicts can also be addicts. They could be addicted to the relationships that they're in. And so to be able to kind of understand that and see them as somebody with a problem, somebody with an addiction, that can make you more empathetic potentially. There's not much you can do, but really pray for the person, right? And just make sure that they're in community. I think community and having more eyes on the person is what breaks them out of anything that's kind of unhealthy that they're going
Mhm.
through.
But do you agree that anyone can change? Like really anyone, like anyone on this planet could really change. Like,
I think it takes like them wanting to change and also God doing a change in their heart, right? I think it's like a 180 kind of situation. I don't think it's like, oh, they'll never change because as
mhm.
long as we're on earth, we have an opportunity for growth, right?
So true.
And I think what Father Damien is saying is so true. The bad boys, the forbidden fruit. Let's not like kid ourselves. There is like that group of, like sin is attractive, right? Sin, people want to indulge. They want to, you know, the things that are considered sinful, like it's even in the Bible. People love their sin, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like they're like necessarily like, oh, I hate this. This is terrible. You know, whatever they're doing, right? In the moment, and I can speak to myself, it was great. Like it was the best feeling, the best high. But then the aftermath of that is your conscience coming down hard and just, knowing that it's probably not the best way, right? The best way for you. And yes, God's grace. Amen.
Yeah, so true. Now, Christine's got quite a remarkable story, guys, that turned around from which she just, she said she was in every aisle, clean up in aisle five, four, three, okay, two, one, maybe not two. But, the amazing thing is, and that's where I feel like faith really comes in, because you got quite the story. You met someone through, oh my gosh. See, Junior should be listening to us. He's not listening right now.
What's in aisle 5?
Well, aisle 5 is the entanglement section, so he's
Oh,
very
no. Who is
he's
this?
my moderator junior. He's
Your
been with me for 2
moderator, you
years.
go to church, man. I'm gonna take him to church.
I don't know if that's gonna really help him, but maybe if you get him a nice, like, T-bone steak, that might change his mind, I don't know. I'll
Oh
I don't
boy.
know. We've been trying to work on Junior for a while.
Amen.
But, and then Father, Damien says aisle 7, which is 7th heaven or heaven 7
Amen.
or something,
Yes.
which is the aisle we should all be in. But why don't you kind of before we go into the remarkable story that happened to you in the pandemic,
Mhm.
for the sake of Junior, what could we, is there any advice you can give to Junior or others about like just what was the aftermath like? Like you said that, you dealt with guys that were like into drugs, into escorts, into different things, like it was kind of dysfunctional. What was the aftermath for you dealing and going and kind of searching like different places? Because I know we glamorize like entanglements and we glamorize like all these different things that, but really it we become broken in the end. It's like
Absolutely.
we're left picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
And that's for men and women. It's not just for women, it's men too. They are also dealing with some men are dealing with hard things too, dealing with a narcissist woman or maybe a woman that abuses them. They don't talk about it, right? So
Mhm.
what would you say to Junior or others that love the entanglement section? Hey,
I
DJ BB
think
Joy, good to see you as well. We're having another deep conversation with
yes.
DJ
Well,
Honeyflow
I will
and
say to the
Christine.
men that are listening, that love aisle 5, there is a cleanup on aisle 5. You will have to do a lot of work to recover from being in aisle 5, because I think the biggest lie to men, especially now, is that, there's this plethora of women, and, they're out for the picking, and you don't have to settle down, and you don't have to, deal with the whole marriage thing, or a girlfriend. You can just come home and, turn on the computer and, talk to somebody or watch pornography. And, it just really, I see when I was on these dating websites, and, I was like in my, mid to later 30s, I was seeing a lot of men that were on, and they were older, and they would say stuff like, what are you looking for? Like, they're still kind of playing the field and all these things like that. And I think the biggest thing that can happen for men and women is that it wastes our time. It
Hmm.
wastes precious years of our time. We don't know when our last day on earth is, right? And so you want to have the best life possible, and like the life that God has for you, right? And if you don't believe in God, maybe to investigate that, to pray and seek God, to seek Christ. And once you kind of come out of this worldly way of living, I'm telling you, it is the biggest sobering up experience, and you're happier for it, because it's almost like you can see clearly for the first time in a long time.
Hmm.
So I would say for men who love aisle 5, um, that's right. It doesn't form you in love, right? It forms you in lust,
Yeah,
and lust.
it's pretty much just lust, like, that's it, and
Yeah,
then that can be addictive too, right? Because it's like you're constantly wanting to feed that, like, you're feeding
yeah,
your flesh, right? You're not feeding, like, your
your spirit.
spirit, and it does nothing for you. So I'm learning, like, every day, sometimes I used to think these were all rules, and it's like I'm tired of living by all these rules all the time, or trying to be the better person, or trying to do this, like, it's exhausting,
Hmm.
right? But we learned that it's not. I'm learning for the first time in my life, these are just not rules in the Bible. Like, it's really coming to life, and it's really just, it's for our protection. It's his love. It's his genuine love for us,
Absolutely.
that he's giving it to us to help us be functional, human beings, I guess, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's making more sense, definitely making more sense to me now,
Yeah.
but it's taken me a long time to actually, where the light bulb goes off and you're like, "Oh, that's what it meant." I'm like, "I can't believe it took me." We won't say how old I am, but it took me quite some time.
Yeah, and I think, like, in our journey in life, like, we'll go through seasons, right? Like, you and I are both Christians, and,
Mhm.
there were so many seasons for myself where I was walking in lukewarm Christianity. I believed God, I read the Bible, I prayed, but then the other half of me was living this totally different existence. And it wasn't until I was living what I was believing and really living out my true faith that, like, my life moved in a direction that was positive, right? I wasn't in this perpetual adolescent state where I kind of was just kind of running wild in the night, kind of doing what I wanted when I wanted. It's a freeing thing when you really experience the love of God and the peace of God, and just kind of coming to accept, God, Christ in your life, right? I think one thing that we maybe I didn't really touch upon was that, you know, I accepted Christ at 16, and then I went to church, and I had my relationship, but then the world pulls you away. The world pulls you away, and your friends in the world are like, "Oh, that guy's so cute. Oh, I think he likes you. Oh, did you sleep with him? Oh, did you go get your, morning after pill?" Like, because you don't want a baby, right? You don't want to get pregnant. Like it just, you go into this world that God did not design for you, because God has a bigger plan, and a plan that will suffer you less heartache, the world has so much heartache and pain. We don't need any more, right? And so this book is truly like rules for living and living well, not just living, but living the best way you can live on this earth.
It's so true. Wow. You said it so well. And again, this special is a different special. We are talking about surviving the holidays. So we're just, talking about all the things that are happening worldwide. There's just a lot of pressure. I've been feeling it a lot lately that, like, oh, should you even be hopeful for a future? Because just everything happening and everything coming to life, right? It does feel a bit scary that, and I actually had a conversation. It was like 2.5 hours with Father Damien the other night, and it was so great, just hearing his perspective and theology. I felt like I went to a theology class actually, because there's so many things I didn't know. But I agree. It says hope is founded in Christ. I feel like that is
Amen.
the only hope in this day and age. And once that gets removed, there really is no hope, like, at all. And I'm feeling that. And I just jotted down some verses, guys. I just wanted to give you too something that came to my heart this week, for anyone really going through things during the holidays, because it is tough surviving the holidays if you're by yourself, doing Christmas, if you lost a loved one, if you lost your job, say if you just had a breakup around the holidays, that could feel
Mhm.
like a divorce.
Yeah.
Maybe you're married and you have kids and you're just like, I don't know how to even do it this year with all these financial, pressures, and just trying to make everyone happy. And I'm sinking, like, I know a lot of people are going through whatever your status is or where you are. I know people are really going through it, for the holidays. But I
Mhm.
just want to give you, a few verses that came to mind that really have always helped me in moments, of grief. Were Psalms 34:18. It says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And I truly, believe that. And then another one I wrote down, it was, I love First Corinthians 2, actually 9. But First Corinthians 2 is really cool for me, Christine, because I remember going to a music concert, and this is how I feel like he speaks to me through music. And
Mm.
as much as people think DJing is, like, as much as they think DJing is little, like, music has always been big to me. Actually, I
Mhm.
should bring the hat. I don't have it, but I ended up buying this hat, and it was like really, really strange because First Corinthians, chapter 2 was like something that really stuck out in me. Like, I've actually used that for a lot of my friends' eulogies, and I use that for Kevin's eulogy as well. And it was crazy because when I bought this hat, I was like, "Oh, why does this look so familiar to me?" And it had that little tiny verse on it, First Corinthians 2, which was like really, really trippy because like I've used that over 14 years of many eulogies, right?
Wow.
So how crazy. No, we're not doing a Bible study at all, but it was just some verses I wanted to pull out that I thought, that really spoke to me. So I wanted to share that. But yeah, it's definitely not a Bible study. It's just
It can
just
be. It can be.
if you want it to, it can be, I guess.
No,
But
not the Bible study.
no, but it was just something that came to my heart, and that's why I wanted whatever people believe in is what they believe in. Definitely not forcing any opinions on people, but this
Mhm.
is my truth. This is Christine's truth, right? So that's why I wanted to definitely talk about it, because people are going through harder times, and I feel that we don't need to just post a reel, like a fake reel on social media. Like, that's something we
Mhm.
don't need to do right now, especially when you look at DJ Twitch, you look at him committing suicide, and you see 24 hours prior to that, he's literally has dancing videos, like, and posting Christmas decorations, right? So for me, I definitely feel more of an urgency in my heart to, like, share the truth with people. It's up to people to, you know, like, accept it or not, or they can leave if they're not interested. That's totally cool too. But I
Mhm.
think we need to be more honest, like, with our stories, right? And actually really speak the truth to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so First Corinthians 2:9 says, "What no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love Him." So I thought that was really powerful too. That kind of gave me hope in such a crazy, it's there's just so much coming at us, right?
Mhm.
And I find it interesting. It's like, why can't you talk about God, right? We talk about everything else, like everything
Everything
imaginable
else.
in this earth. Like we talk about entanglements, we talk about cheating, we talk about, doing this, doing that, polygamy, we talk about everything. But then why is it questioned when you actually bring up God? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about that? Like if God weren't real, like why is his name used as a curse word? Why is it being removed, like out
Mhm.
of schools? I just actually was watching a thing in the UK that like the Bible they're removing out of hotel rooms, and they're
Oh,
trying to remove like everything. Like
wow.
if it was just all imaginary or fictional, why is there so much need to remove it?
That's
And
right.
why is this the only religion? Because I have a lot of Muslim friends, half of my family is involved in Hinduism because I come from an East Indian background, like my
Mhm.
father's side. Like, how come you don't really hear any of that being removed? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
One of your viewers is mentioning mental health advocacy is an emergency. So, a part of my testimony too is, growing up in a family where my parents were fighting all the time. There was like verbal abuse, things like that. And let me just preface this with my father has accepted Christ and his life completely changed when I was about 26 years old. But before that, we were in a bit of a different atmosphere with my family. And growing up, just internalizing a lot of the stuff that I had seen and heard, it really brought on like a deep depression and anxiety within me. And I could never really understand what was going on, like what was going on with myself, why I would, start crying or feeling really down or being triggered really easily on things. I took medication at one point. I saw therapists. They told me, you're probably going to have to take this medication for the rest of your life. And the medication was making me put on weight. If any of you on here know, like what antidepressants can do is it can make you not want to eat, or sorry, it can make you want to eat. So then the weight gain would make you even more depressed that you are having to take this, and it's going to make you gain more weight. So for me, I went to the ends of the earth. I struggled with it for over a decade, on and off meds, going to see different doctors, going to see different therapists, dropping out of university for a time, being so depressed that I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want to engage with people. And you know me, like I'm not one to shy away from people, right? So like my dad was even like, here's 20 bucks, go to the mall, like go live your life, go enjoy, because he didn't even see me do anything. I didn't want to go and take a shower. And so for me, I went to the ends of the earth trying to fix myself, to figure out what was wrong. And um, in the end, like I did therapy, I took meds for a short time. I can gladly say I'm like 12, 13 years off of medication. So, like, whatever the doctor said at that time was not accurate. Um, and, I will say what pulled me out of the mental health issues that I had that were so prolonged, and this was not pandemic related. This was like during the time of our lives where people were out and about and like everything was great. The only thing that truly pulled me out of my funk was God. And so, you're right. Mental health advocacy is an emergency for many people right now, not even just some. Like, so many people are experiencing mental health crises.
And
Um,
it's normal people. A lot of people think,
mhm,
"Oh," that's why I don't like using the word mental health because people like you almost think it's a different category of people. But then when you look at people like DJ Twitch and Robin Williams, Kate Spade, the chef, I
mhm.
can't remember his name, like the list
Mental
goes on.
overdose.
And people are trying to understand, well, like it must be something else. There's no way it could be suicide because these people were happy and they're just, but that's what depression can look like. It can look very happy on social media, but
Yeah.
you don't know when you shut the camera off, you don't know what someone's really going through, right? Look at
Yeah.
all the celebrities. I can't count one on my hand that was actually happy when I think of like Prince, Whitney Houston, like the list just goes on, with all this success that you have. It's like, were all these people actually really happy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why we have to think about, like, you have to think about faith, whether you like to or not, like whether you
Mhm.
believe or not. Like, you
Mhm.
still have faith when you get in the airplane. You have faith in the pilot. If you're atheists will say, no, I don't have faith. But you do, because you're having faith in that pilot, in that human being. You're having faith in that doctor, that gives you that cancer diagnosis and tells you it's stage 4 or 5, and that's it. You have 2 weeks to live. Like, you're
Mhm.
believing a doctor, or you're believing a human being. But we run to all these other things believing them, but it's so hard for us to believe God. Like, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. Oh, you said Mark Wahlberg is happy? Oh, okay.
Is he Catholic?
Oh, that's so funny.
They
But
have good
yeah.
burgers, those Wahlburgers
But
had.
even if you have faith, or religion, or Catholic or Christian, like, you still have struggles,
Mhm.
It's still a process, right? It's
Mhm.
not perfection,
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, Father Damien says natural faith versus supernatural faith. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and he says, oh, he
Different.
puts God first. I didn't know that about Mark Wahlberg, actually. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I was watching Tim Tebow too. I think he's pretty awesome. And I mean, some may debate me, but like, I was watching what he was doing with his human trafficking organization with his wife. And
Mhm.
he's just got such a heart for kids and people. It's like, really inspires me watching him and a few others, some of their
Mhm.
videos. They're actually doing something with the celebrity and the millions that they have. They're doing something about it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Well, if you guys have any comments, definitely for Christine. I know DJ Jonah earlier asked if you have social media, or like where to add you. I don't know if he's in the room, but he asked quite earlier. But
I'm
it's up
so
to you.
sorry,
'Cause
guys. I'm not on Instagram. You can add me, but there's like a picture of me and the other picture is like a picture of a pie, and I'm not even joking. Like, there's like not much going on there. I
It's
mean,
interesting because you're not on, like, a big social media person, but yet you've worked for, like, the largest, like, news stations in Canada and, like, are in media, but you're not like a social media guru. So it's
well,
interesting how that is.
what's really interesting? So
Mhm,
when I worked at CBC, like, like anybody, you'd look up like anchors and reporters and producers, and a lot of them keep a very low profile. Like, they're all up in the
mhm,
camera and stuff like that, giving you the news. But then
mhm.
when it comes to their Twitter, they say not a tweet, they don't chirp, they don't say nothing.
No, they don't,
Yeah,
like, yeah.
it's very, and in some weird way, you'd think that being in the media, you're like out there, but really you're kind of behind the scenes depending on what you do. Like, you don't have to be vocal. So I'm so sorry if I'm on the show again one day, maybe I'll have something built up. But until then, keep watching DJ Honeyflow.
Oh gosh. I know. We'll see how long I'm here. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. We'll see where the shift, or where things start moving or taking me. I'm not quite sure. But
Well,
mhm.
so Maria, since I'm the
Oh, you're
journalist.
not supposed to give my government name. You're not
Oh,
supposed to give my government name. You guys always do that. I'm like, shh.
DJ Honeyflow, DJ Honeyflow, how have you survived the holidays?
Oh my gosh. Wow, I didn't think you were going to ask me that question.
Mhm.
That is a tough question. I think it's been tough. It's definitely been up and down, like job loss, not seeing your family. Like, I think it's going on 5 years right now, which is crazy. I need to get back home, like,
You haven't seen your family
fast.
in 5 years?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Like, I used to see them like twice a year or every year. But we won't go into everything in Canada, although they lifted things, like, my situation. So yeah, it's been tough. I think sometimes worry and fear can set in, especially with the future. Like, if you're literally like, I'm literally now reading my Bible a lot more. Like, I'm actually going back to Matthew and trying to like dissect and like write down all the things that I understand and don't understand.
Mhm.
And that's why Father Damien's now getting calls too from me. But like I'm trying to really dissect it. And it's hard not to be fearful when you're looking at everything lining up. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like you're looking at everything word for word. And
Yeah.
as much people say, well, it'll be easier if I escape it, or, I know some Americans I talk to, they're like, well, we'll just move to Canada. And some Canadians are like, well, we'll
Don't
just
come
move to the
here.
Caribbean.
Don't
Yeah,
come
I
here.
know it's
I
crazy.
know.
But
Not
like,
right now.
but I think, you know, yeah, it's definitely been difficult. It's definitely been up and down, but
Mhm.
it's been good in a way because it's forced me to see what really matters, and it's forced me to go back to my faith stubbornly. It's forced me to really open up the Word and spend time and know that like all these things aren't going to fulfill you. Social media, Twitch, like going here, going there, going to all these shows, like they're just temporary fixes, but they're really not going to fulfill the thing that you really need to be fulfilled right here.
Mhm.
So yeah, I definitely think it's been up and down. It's been daily, sometimes hourly, if I'm honest. Twitch has been a great avenue, as you know, a great escape, connecting
Mhm.
with people in my chat room. But yeah, I think times I have felt very overwhelmed too. Like, should you plan like how you planned before the pandemic? Or
Mhm.
should you just not plan at all anymore?
Mhm.
When you think of like a mortgage and think of things like, do those things really matter? Like, I
Mhm.
don't know?
Yeah, there's that scripture that says man makes many plans, but the Lord directs his steps. So
Mhm.
we make all these plans, but you don't know tomorrow is basically, I think, what that scripture means. Like God is going to direct you.
Mhm.
For me, I could have kept going in these, really go nowhere relationships till I was 50, 60. Like, and I'm not over exaggerating. Like I never had a vision for marriage, and you know, but God had a different plan, or God, like I surrendered to God. It wasn't just that it just happened. I had to surrender my life to God. And, I would encourage anyone watching, like, if you feel hopeless or depressed or anxious, these things, like, just know that you have a God in heaven who loves you and who wants to have a relationship with you and wants to come and, help you. He said that we'll have many trials, but he will deliver us from them all. So we'll go through so many things. This world is not perfect. This world is fraught with so much devastation and, heartache and pain, but God is our hope, and if, you want a bit of that hope and a bit of that peace and joy that's within, that comes from God, all we have to do is just surrender our lives to him. It sounds like a hard thing to do, but God meets us where we are at. Like, if you're knee deep in sin, or you're, in bad relationship, or you're doing some sneaky things on the side, whatever it is, if you want to get right with God, and maybe I'm preaching now, so I'm sorry, but if you want to get right with God, you have an opportunity today, right now. God is waiting for you no matter what you've done. King David in the Bible, he killed a man to be with Bathsheba. He killed her husband to be with this woman, but God still made him king. That's not like a plug to go kill someone, but I just mean, like, we can do the gravest things, but and you could feel so far, and that you can't, there's no turning back. There's no way to get out of what you're doing, whether you're sitting at home and nobody knows you have a porn addiction and you're just like trapped in it, like God can really pull you out of that darkness if you just meet him and you just surrender your life to him.
That's so true, and that's real talk, like, right there, That is so true. I definitely agree with you, but it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Like, no one is perfect, like, everyone, and especially in this industry, we both know, right? Because we both come from media. We both see you see a lot, right? And if you're not grounded, it's very easy to just get sucked in to this, like, rabbit hole, right? Especially this
Mhm.
industry.
Mhm.
But there's so much need. There's so much need. And this is why we're talking about it today, guys, because it just was so heavy on my heart. And it was interesting how things happened because even last week, this idea, surviving the holidays, came to my heart on Sunday. And then we found out a few people passed away. And then we woke up last Wednesday to DJ Twitch. Like it just was like, wow, it's
Mhm.
just unbelievable. You would just never know. So you know, instead of waiting and being comfortable and not having these hard conversations, I think it's really important to really be open and honest and have these and share our truths, whether you believe it or not. Because
Mhm.
if it saves one person, that could have been a DJ Twitch, then that's what matters, right?
Mhm.
Over your reputation or over what you do. And we need more people speaking, I feel, in this field, especially in media, right? We need more people speaking that truth, you
Mhm.
know,
And you know
whether
what? I
Mhm.
would say, Maria, you have this sorry, Honeyflow, Honeyflow!
And everyone's gonna be like, now everyone's
We
gonna know
do.
my entire government
Listen,
name.
we've been friends since when? 2010? We've been friends for a long
2009,
time.
2009, yeah, 13 years. That's
2009?
crazy. Oh, Father Damien says you have to read the Confessions of Saint Augustine. I gotta check that out. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, Junior says, DJ Twitch was so sad. Yeah, and it still is. I'm still thinking about his wife. I'm literally praying for his wife and his kids.
Mm,
Because just right around the holidays, it's just a constant reminder, right?
mhm,
Um, I remember like he passed right after, I think it was like a day or two after Valentine's Day. So that's always like a hard holiday, but I also
mhm,
do remember like going Christmas shopping and I hated it. Like I hated going through the mall because you would hear Frank Sinatra and like see all these couples and everyone was together and it was really, really tough. It was really tough just walking in the mall,
yeah,
and you're just like, no one around me knows my reality, but I know God does, right? I couldn't see it at the time, but I knew that he was with me. I
mhm,
didn't feel him always at the time, but
mhm,
now if I reflect back years later, I'm like, wow, like he really is present even in those broken moments. And
yeah,
that's why I'm pulling out scripture today, cuz like I don't want to just talk about it. Like I'd rather get it from the word because it says the word is breathing life, right? Like
amen.
the
Amen.
word is what? A double-edged sword. So that's why
Yeah.
it probably irritates people. So, but I'm like, no, I'm going to pull it out,
Don't be
because I
irritated.
don't want to have my words. I would rather just get it from the word, right?
Well, Marie, DJ,
Hmm.
one thing I would say is that you have such an amazing platform. You're able to do this very thing. Like for myself, who, I've been in all these like, different type of organizations. There's a lot of restriction on, being too, religious, right? And so one story I'll say at the CBC, I'll just say it. I was in the control room and there was a story about these boys that were trapped in a cave in like Southeast Asia. Anyways, they got out of the cave and the writer of the piece that we were airing on the show said, "Oh, majority of them were Buddhist, one was Christian." And so the host was like, "Christian, who cares about that? Scrap that part. Take that part out." And it was just a tiny part. And to this person, it may not have been important, but to me, that was the story. I like, oh, it was because they were supposed to be awarded some sort of like award for being like having good meditative prowess, being able to withstand being stuck in a cave. But the Christian didn't take the some sort of award because it was against their faith. And that whole section of that story got deleted because of the part that they were Christian. And so I find that so interesting because, to me, that's the story. And yet that was omitted. But on your show, you can speak scripture, even if people are in the chat saying, what is this garbage? You just keep plugging away. I think it's amazing. And if I can add something that is a scripture for me that gives life is Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. And I believe that if we truly trust God, and not try to figure it out, I think we're in this, society where we're trying to figure everything out for our lives, even down to like what kind of, protein powder to take, like things like that. Just trust God. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Mhm. So
Hmm.
true. And what are you gonna do too? Like, like sometimes we only turn to him when something happens, like when we get a stage 4 or 5 like cancer diagnosis, or, you know, like you get in that car accident. Like the first thing, even if you don't believe, you're calling on God, like, which is kind of crazy.
Hmm.
So I just think that it's probably much easier just calling on him sooner to find out the truth.
Hmm.
Mystic Mountain mentioned Stevie Wonder. I'm going to Google that after Mystic Mountain. You said Stevie Wonder someday at Christmas lyrics are worth sharing. My contribution. So I'm gonna
Thank
check out.
you.
I'm gonna check that out. Stevie Wonder. I'm gonna definitely check that out. And it's Stevie Wonder. I mean, he's amazing. It's a great song. Then I
Mhm.
will. I'm gonna actually be DJing Nordstrom this Friday, guys, and we're having a crazy winter storm coming. They actually called me. Did you hear about that crazy winter storm? It's going to be
Yeah.
nuts. Yeah, I'm supposed to be DJing this Friday at Sherway Gardens Mall at
Mhm.
Nordstrom. So they're
Mhm.
like, "Do you want me to come in tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm from Winterpeg. Don't worry, I know how to drive." But now I'm thinking, "Shoot, how crazy is this snowstorm going to be?" So if that's a good pick, Mystic Mountain, I will play that at Nordstrom just for you. Stevie Wonder, someday at Christmas. I will play that for you. Yeah. Well, at least someone actually used the word Christmas too, because no
Yeah.
one's using Christmas at all anymore. Like, it's a crime to even say Merry Christmas to people
Mhm.
anymore, which is crazy, you know?
Mhm.
Um, yes, exactly. Father Damien says, hoping someday no wars, no poverty, no tears. So true.
Mhm.
So, Christine does have kind of an interesting success story too. Going from, I guess, different aisles and then finding her way back into aisle two. So it's kind of a cool story that happened to her during the pandemic, guys, with the
Mhm.
relationship she has. And now, yeah, now we're going back to the aisles, Junior. And she got back into aisle two. So why don't you share kind of what happened with that interesting story, you know?
Your friend
'Cause
wrote
that definitely
aisle
provides some hope.
hopper. Your friend wrote aisle hopper. That's a first.
At
Yeah,
least she
so
admits to that, at least she's honest with that.
yep, been there, done that.
Oh, actually,
Uh,
one original says, "We made it through not only another holiday, but soon another one year."
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so true, it's so true. If you
Thank
guys got any positive advice to throw up in the chat room, anything that you think would help any of us get through the holidays, surviving the holidays, what would that be? So definitely just put it in the chat room. Could be anything, no answer is wrong. Whatever comes to mind that's been helping you survive the holidays, um, even if it's eating like 5 bowls of ice cream, let us know. Like, we wanna know.
please
So,
no.
yeah, drop it in the chat. I'd be, because maybe you could help someone else too that's kinda sitting here trying to get through the holidays. I know I've talked to a lot of people and they have just said, "Look, I just want these holidays to pass," and I get it, but yeah, let me know if you guys have any positive, hopeful solutions too in surviving the holidays. But one positive story was, Christine, definitely meeting someone during the pandemic as well, and,
I was
that was
thinking of my couch, guys.
that was definitely life altering, like life changing. So why don't you share a little bit about what happened there too?
Okay, so for anybody that's been on here for this broadcast, yeah, so I was in these non-relationships for quite a number of years, maybe almost like a decade even. And then, the last person I had seen, like I was all interested in, people that were unavailable. I was, like I said, I wasn't even really thinking about it too hard, but they were all unavailable in some way. And the last person, he was definitely not available, definitely checked out, definitely addicted to things, and just not, I knew he was not the person for me. Like, I knew he was not the one that God had for me. And, what some people say in some circles, some Christian circles, they call it a counterfeit. So it's like the counterfeit person that comes in and seems like they're the right person, but they're totally wrong. They're totally wrong for you. Anyways, so I had seen that person in 2019. That was the last year before everything turned on its head, and that was a really hard one to break. Sorry, and even though I knew I should, and that was one of those ones where I knew I was living in sin. I knew I was not living right before God, and I knew, like, you know, this is going to sound heavy, but for those of us on the chat that are believers, like, I thought to myself, if I died tomorrow, I would die in my sin. And where would that take me? And just the waking up to that reality every day, yet being so stuck into the situation that I was in. I mean, I'll never forget that. Um, and by the God's grace, I'm not in that anymore. But basically, after that ended, I was really distressed. I was really depressed. And then shortly after, the pandemic happened. We went into lockdown, and I was just like, what's going on with my life? What's going on with the world? Um, but I walked into a church in Hamilton. My girlfriend said, "Hey, come check out this church this Sunday. We got nothing to do. Let's go see this church." And so I did. And there was a prophetic minister who runs the church on a very dingy street out in Hamilton, like very like run down street, lots of drug addicts, lots of homeless. And so I went into the church, and after the service, he said, "Oh, did you enjoy our service?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, it was great." And he said, we just had a short conversation, and he said, "Your life is going to change in August." And I thought, am I going to get a new job? Like, I wasn't thinking about anything relational, nothing permanent, nothing relational at all. And so I had visited that church several times over. And then the minister asked me to come into the church one day on a Sunday. And he had said, "What if I told you that uh, somebody's going to come in to your life very soon? And then within 2 months of meeting, he's going to ask you to marry him." And I thought to myself, I thought I'd say you're crazy. I'd say, what do you want me to say to that? Like, here I am, in my late 30s, and being like, what? Like, I don't really know if I believe this. Like, it just sounds so unbelievable. Anyways, I left that church that day, and knowing that certain things had happened for people at like after he had shared it with them, I couldn't help but think that maybe you're also in your late 30s. Awesome. One of your guys. Um, I I just didn't know what to expect. So then at the time, I was talking to somebody who was on my Facebook, and we had known each other through mutual church people. And then he started inboxing me, and we started talking. And within few months, he asked me, he said, "I think God's calling us to be married." So I don't know about you guys on the chat, but I've never had anyone say that to me in my life. Like, "I think God's calling us to be married." So at the time, I tried to not think about what that minister said. And I just kept going with the flow of like our, you know, hanging out, talking. And literally within 2 months, he asked me to marry him. So, that to me was kind of unbelievable. Like, people can say it's a coincidence, but I think that, it was truly something of the work of God, like intervening in my life. And we got married that same year. And that whole life, that whole world of being with different people and crazy situations and drawn out situations with the wrong person, that all came to a crashing halt, and I got married. So I give thanks to God, because marriage is ordained of God. It is a blessing of God. And, I easily could have been in my way of living, which I didn't think was necessarily a bad thing. I could have been in there for the rest of my life, really. So that's my story. And then yeah, we got married. It was the height of the pandemic, but we still did it. We trusted God and we went for it. And we got married before the second lockdown in Toronto. They were issuing the lockdown on the Monday. We got married on the Sunday.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah,
Monday. You guys, Monday lockdown, guys, and
yeah.
then Sunday they got married, and there were so many lockdowns here that it was, like, nearly impossible, like,
Oh yeah.
churches were even getting fined for bringing in people, like, in there,
Yeah, and
like
what they did in Toronto, I don't know if you remember this, but, like, in Toronto, like, Doug Ford would come out on a Friday and make an announcement, and everyone knew, "Oh, everything's gonna lock down, so, like, I gotta go get my groceries, I don't know if you remember that, but the Friday
Mhm.
before my wedding, it was like, Doug Ford will be issuing an announcement on Friday. I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was like, "Oh, no." I was like, "My wedding is this weekend," but thankfully, the lockdown we were locked down after the wedding, right after
Yeah,
the
that's crazy, like, right after the wedding. That's insane. What could you say? Because I know you guys are fairly new to marriage, obviously, it's not all blissful. I know we joke a lot in aisle 2, but marriage is hard work too, and
Oh,
how
yeah.
could you say you were before? Because you weren't this dreamy, like, "Oh, hey, I wanna get married," like, type of girl, like, we were pretty similar when it came to that,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we're
I didn't care
fine,
to
like
be married. Yeah, we were no, you and I were actually really okay. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I think I
yeah.
was even more okay.
I don't think people think I'm okay on Twitch. I think they think that I'm a little blissful or dreamy in aisle 2, which is hilarious because
Hopeful.
they really, really don't know me. Like they don't know that me and you are very similar when it comes to that, right? Like we're like, "Meh, whatever." Like we're not dreaming of this like how most, a lot of young or a lot of women do.
Mhm.
We're just like, "Ah, we're good."
Yeah,
You know?
exactly, and I was good in like, for those of you that might be watching that, deep, deep down in your heart, you do wanna be married, you do want somebody, you do care, and you're stuck with somebody that may not deserve you, like all that kind of stuff. People will know what I'm talking about if they're in it. You know, there is hope for you, and there is hope for you. No, I'm not saying there's hope for you to get married, or you don't have hope because you're not married. I just mean that there is a better plan for you in your life, and yes, you have to be happy with yourself, single or not. That's true, but I think sometimes being happy with yourself, like the way the world just inundates us with how to be better and how to be prettier, how to be smarter, how to be this and that, more successful. It's like it's like you feel like you're never going to be happy with yourself, or there's always something more to achieve. And I think that the most important thing is your identity in God. Like, I'm sorry, I'm pushing the God thing. I don't know if some of your viewers will like it, but you know what? This is my
Mystic Mountain may debate you, I think might
this
he
is
might give you a challenge here.
show. This is my friend's show, and I got 15 minutes, okay?
No, say what you want. I mean, it's a free platform to say your truth, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. The world does push, like it pushes beauty, it pushes, making it happen like at a certain age, getting the multi-million dollars, like doing all this stuff. But it can't, it's such a lie though, because we're taught all these things to do this, to do that, to do that. When it comes at the end of our lives, are you going to wait until you're 90 years old to come to the realization of what was your life? Like, what was your purpose? What was your legacy? What did you do for people while you were here? Like,
Mhm.
that's something I think about every day, but maybe I think about it sooner than others because I've lost a lot of people, right? Like I've gone through a whole lot of grief. I've gone through a lot of loss. Hey, Outlaw, good to see you. Thanks for coming through as well. I see you there. Great to see you. And Spidey as well. I see you. Thanks for coming through. Um, for all you guys just coming through, we are actually talking on one original too as well. We are talking about surviving the holidays. So we're talking about like if you've ever gone through loss, it could be losing someone that you love around this season is always tough. I can relate to that. Definitely could be a loss of a job, financial. You may have pressure to get your kids a lot of things, and they may not even understand the financial pressure you're going through, especially in these times. Um, I think everyone has been hit hard, right? They're now talking about a recession. We talked about inflation rising, like so many things are happening around the world and the economy that you can't just ignore it and just go to another party. Although people like definitely do that, right? Because they'd rather not hear uh, something realistic that we're talking about, right? So we're just kind of talking about like how do you have hope in these times and faith in these times. Oh, thank you so much, Junior, for that gifted sub. Junior, you got to stop. You help me so much on my show, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the subscription to Outlaw too. I appreciate you, Junior. Again, I gotta sub you guys as my mods. Can't be the other way around. But Father Damien had a great comment. So we're telling people to put in the room, guys, the comments, any comments that you guys may have that can give hope, provide hope in this season. And we just want people to know that they're not alone. Like I've been going through it for the last couple months, as much as I do DJ shows and have fun, I've definitely been going through it personally. If we're honest, I think everyone has, right? It's been a different kind of Christmas, different kind of holiday. And whatever it is you're going through, we just want to say that there is hope out there. And, you still got to have faith. And even if you feel so low, like there's not another day, and the reason why I'm doing this show is because of all the losses we've heard about the past week. And with DJ Twitch, it's just been heavy on my heart. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. I'm just looking at another computer right now. I just saw that you guys just started a hype train. Wow. Thank you guys so much. Jangus, thanks again for coming through and just supporting me. I really do appreciate it. He just gave 1,000 bits. Wow. Father Damien, 200 bits. Outlaw, 100 bits. Junior, one gifted sub again to Outlaw and DJ Quad earlier. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate that. Level 2, 11%. Thank you guys. But Father Damien had a great message here. It says, it's always good to look outside yourself and help those less fortunate than yourself. It does a few things. It helps us grow in love. Um, and then it helps us to see a bigger picture of life and that we might have things to be grateful for. It also moves us away from just looking at ourselves. Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much, Father Damien, for that and all your advice. Like, it's so true. Have you found that, Christine, when you were out there? Because I know Christine, she's in the trenches, man, guys. Like she'll just go up to like homeless people, and I know she doesn't want me probably advertising this, but I love that about you, that like you don't really seem to care if people make fun of you or not. Like, you'll have conversations with people on the street or spend like your weekends. I mean, you could be anywhere, but you're also doing that to help others, which I find really admirable with you, you know?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I used to do a lot of not so much in the last since I've been married so much, but I used to and I'm planning to do more now that I have the holidays, but I used to do street ministry. So we would go to the men's shelters in Toronto, and my friends and I, we would do like a little church service for the men that were in these shelters. The shelter would let us in, like the largest men's shelter in Toronto would let us come in on a Friday night and just play some music, read from scripture, give cookies, coffee, donuts, and just kind of engage with the people that were at the shelter. And, it like, and what Father Damien said was actually a really good example of what I had gone through when I was seeing somebody, um, that was, the abusive relationship that I had ended. I was in so much heartbreak, but at the same time, I was volunteering at that shelter. And I'm telling you, like, it doesn't matter what situation you're coming out of or trying to get over, like, when you start plugging into others and loving on others, especially those that are really in need, there's just a special grace that I feel like comes upon you from God. I feel like you think that, the world will tell you like, oh, and all these beautiful, like high end, ritzy places, like that's like the paramount place to be. But really, for me, I will say this, like the best place for me that I ever sensed God's presence the strongest was in the men's shelter, where these men and men have like the men in here might be able to understand, but like men have a sense of pride, right? And like their work is really important to them. And to see these men that had nothing and really just the clothes on their back and sleeping in a shelter with other men that were like, doing drugs, going to the bathroom on the floor, like just the craziest things you could think of. They were at their wits' end, like they were at the end of themselves. Sorry, they were at the end of themselves, and just coming to the Lord and playing music with the instruments and singing these songs to God when in their time of like struggle, deep struggles, they're literally surviving day to day was just like the most gratifying thing for me, and really just feeling the presence of God in those places.
I think that's amazing, and especially with the men, like, I definitely give them props because I don't think it's easy,
Mhm,
like, it really, really is not easy in this day and age to be a leader and to have so much, like, on their backs to do,
mm,
like and I agree, like, with their jobs, I've heard that too, it's like if you lose your job, it's like you lose your identity, and that's what Tim
mhm,
Tebow talks about often when he got cut from the team, like, his whole life was football, right? It's
yeah,
like, what's your validation? Where do you lie now when that's stripped away from you? And as a man, it's really important to have that. But he also talks about how your identity isn't in a job. It's not in your status. It's like that's what the world teaches us. It's so backwards when you actually look at faith compared to what we're taught in the world. And it's crazy that like some of us don't get that lesson till years later.
mhm,
I'm glad I'm learning it now, but it's definitely uncomfortable. Like, it's like, how could I have missed this? How could I have not known? Because we do place that, we're taught from very young, like, you got to go to university, you got to go to college, you got to succeed. And especially if you're an independent woman like ourselves,
mhm,
you're taught like striving, you got to get this, you got to maintain this. Like, it just never ends, right?
mhm,
But
right.
then what happens if God allows and strips that your job away, strips your identity? Basically, you start realizing, "Oh, shoot, who am I?" When people ask who you are, what do you say? Like,
Mhm,
you usually say, "Well, I do this," or "I am this," right?
mm,
But
yeah.
who really are you? And I don't know, I think that's kind of a deep question that we gotta ask ourselves, and what do we want our lives to be? Do we
Mhm,
want it
mhm,
just to be about things? Or and I feel like sometimes, like, when I talk even with homeless people, I feel like they have more survival tactics than like we do.
for
Like,
sure.
they would be able to survive way more than we would, especially during probably a pandemic. Like, they're used to surviving, right?
Mm,
And I think we just take so much for granted as human beings?
mhm,
So, yeah, it's interesting. Oh, Junior, thank you guys so much for the level 2 hype train and all your support. I really do appreciate it, guys, on my show. Junior says, "Hey, I
yeah.
gotta go." Hopefully, you learned something, Junior. We love you, but we're still trying to twist your ear and bring you into aisle 2. He says, "Thanks for coming, Christine. Thank you for sharing your truth. Your perspective makes aisle 2 much more appealing." Because Junior is all about aisle 5 entanglement section,
I
right?
did my job. If he wants to come to aisle 2, that's awesome.
Oh, man, but just don't go to aisle 2 before me. If he gets married before me, this is gonna be a very major problem. I'm telling you, it is. It's gonna be a major problem with me because it's funny, all the people that say that they never wanna get married, they usually always get married first.
Married.
All the DJs, I see it all the time online. They're just like, "I'm never gonna get married." They're making fun of people's weddings when we're doing a wedding together, and then sure enough, 6 months later, they're married. I'm like, how does this happen?
That's so
It
funny.
is funny. But Junior says, I do have a question. Since she is a jazz fan, what's your favorite jazz artist? Interesting. It's a great
Mm,
question.
that is a great question. Thanks for asking. I love, John Coltrane and Bill Evans. Bill Evans is
Hmm.
a piano player from Jersey, and he is beautiful. You have to listen to his stuff if you like jazz.
Hmm. Father Damien says, what if it happens if he goes to aisle 2 with me? Well, he can't possibly go to aisle 2 with me, Father Damien. I don't know what you mean. He can't go to aisle 2 with me. I don't unless if we
I
both
think
get married at the same time.
I think Father Damien's trying to get you guys to go down the aisle to
What?
get
Father Damien, he's like my little bro. He's like my little brother, you know?
married.
Um, plus him and my other mod like to go back and forth together, sending, voice little messages, which I find funny. I don't know. It's interesting on our WhatsApp. Jenga says, "Have you heard of Nick Alley?" I haven't heard.
No.
Oh no, he's based out of Toronto. I'm gonna have to Google him, Jangus.
Maybe we'll go
Father
see him.
Damien, you're creating a crime right now. What are you saying? You're supposed to be a priest. You're not supposed to be saying this today to me.
DJ Honeyflow, marriage is of God. He's trying to make you an honest woman.
Yeah, I know, but like Junior's like I'm like his big sister. What are you guys doing? He's a mod of mine. What the heck?
Mhm.
Maybe we'll all end up in Jamaica together for a trip. I think that's about it. But trying to get us married off is like me trying to get you to marry your sister, Father Damien. That would just be wrong. Oh man. Anyways, he says you better get to aisle 2 before you. No, I said if he comes in aisle 2 before me, it's going to be a problem. Meaning, if he gets married before me, it's going to be a major problem because he doesn't even want to get married. That's what I mean. Anyways, Jengis, yeah, thanks for coming through and all your support. I appreciate it. You said heading on the train to pick up one of my boys from college. You're always heading on the train to pick them up. That's great. Father Damien says it's not the same. So I know you got to get going too as well. Do you have a few more minutes, Christine?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
you
a
do.
few minutes. Sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Perfect. So, yeah, it was so great. If you guys have any more questions, if you have any questions actually for Christine, drop them in the chat. If you have any other useful ways of, how do you create hope like around these holidays, just surviving the holidays? It's been a great discussion today. It's been really real too.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing so much and being open as well.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, you know, even before I came on, I was like, I think people are afraid to share, people are afraid to be open, but like our testimony is what, is something to be shared. And so I just, I kept saying, it's not about you, Christine. It's not about you. It's about what's God's done through you. And even just hearing one of your, one of the guys on here saying, what you said made it to more appealing. But like I feel like I've done my job, even just to hear something like that, because you know I've been in whatever aisle he was talking about, and for a really long time, and I was cleaning up those bottles for. Actually, you know what? I won't even say that. When God delivered me, He cleaned up the aisle for me, and I just walked down the wedding aisle. And we still have things that we got to work on. Like just because you're married doesn't mean everything's perfect and rosy. You're still going to always have a work to do within yourself, no matter what. Like no matter what success or what milestone you hit, like we're always going to be a work in progress until we see God, until we meet God at the end of our life.
It's so true, and it's a process. It doesn't just happen
Mhm.
instantly, right? It's like
Mhm.
a day-to-day process, spending time. It's like how we spend time with each other on Twitch. It's like, I get to know people like very well in my chat room, where even if they went under a different ID, I'd recognize them because like I just know who they are, their personality now, right? So it
Yeah.
comes by spending that time, like even spending that time in the word or spending that time like with him. And even sometimes that'll take you away from all the distractions like social media. Like I haven't been on a million shows either myself,
Mhm.
just because, yeah, I mean, all these things, can really burden you. Like all these things that are happening in the world can be very overwhelming.
Mhm.
So I think it's good to just take that quiet time away, right? And spend time with him. And that's how you develop a relationship, just like how I'm developing a relationship with some of you guys in my chat room. It's the same thing. That's how God works. But he's always so patient to just to reach you where you're at, like exactly where you're at. You're never too far away for his love. And like I said on my show last Wednesday, like he's constantly pursuing a love relationship with you, and even through the mess, because it will get messy, like going through grief, going through loss, that can be really like heartbreaking. It can be really messy, losing a job, or just going through the things that we're going through right now, right? Or even people that are married and are struggling in their relationships, like just trying to stay afloat, just trying to love each other, or just trying to feel connected in these times with all this extra pressure. So I just want to encourage people to know that like they're not alone. Like there's so many of us that are going through different things, and if we're all honest, like every single person, I'm sure in this room, watching the show, the replay, like in the world, I feel like everyone's going through something, you know? Do you think that too? Or do you think it's just like it's just like so blissful?
Who, me?
Yeah, like
No,
what are your thoughts on
everyone is
that?
absolutely going through something, whether it's external, internal. We all got stuff going on.
Yeah, we all got stuff going on, and I think sometimes if we just remove that mask, or you get really real with people, whether it's popular or not, like you really get honest, then you can maybe help people that are like, okay, well maybe I'm not alone, maybe there's others that are feeling the same way, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely wanted to just thank you for coming on and sharing your truth and being so honest.
Yeah.
Um, Again, if you guys have any last questions, it's your time to get them in for Christine. For all you guys that don't know, this is a good friend. This is the second person I met in Toronto in 2009 when I moved to the city. It's been an amazing journey as well, like even through our friendship, ups and downs too, like any other relationship.
Mhm.
um, but like, I just want to say I'm so grateful for you. Like you were
Aw.
definitely, definitely a saving grace. Like 2009, I can't believe some of the stuff you remember, I don't even remember. Like sitting on that step, just like totally broken, just surviving, like literally surviving the holidays back in
Mhm.
2009. And it was interesting that you brought back that memory, because I think sometimes with grief and loss, you could be in a lot of shock where it's like you don't remember. I literally do not remember 5 years of that time of my life, 5 years. I don't remember that. So when you brought that memory to me, I was like, wow, it's actually coming back to me. I remember that moment.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
those were powerful moments. So don't think that people just come. Like people definitely come in your life for seasons, but always recognize that like God really could place people in your path, even if it's just for a season. But He'll place people to help you and to show you His love, and that's how He works. Like He's constantly pursuing a love relationship with you. And
Mhm.
I can say that that's fact, because I would have not survived that holiday if it weren't for someone like you or others that like
Mhm.
came in my path when I needed it.
Aw, amen. Thank you so much. And like, same to you. Like, you are such a light for so many people. Like, the people that watch you, or people that are like, I don't know what words you used, spying. Or you used some word where like they kind of
I
come in, check out your show, they
Oh, it's
jump.
called lurking. It's called lurking.
Lurking, lurking. Lurking used to be a negative term, but I guess now it's just like a free for all, like come lurk if you want. But I think that you're such a bright light here, right? Like I'm not really familiar with Twitch. She tells me about it all the time, but yeah, like thank you too for just being such a great friend, for being a consistent person, for being someone who is a true friend, and gave me hard talks when I didn't want to hear it. You used to be that hard person, and I kind of feel like the tables have turned a little bit, but
Actually, yeah, I think they have, which is kind of quite interesting how they've turned a bit,
yeah, I
right?
mean,
Like,
yeah, it's interesting. um
oh, I need to ask you though, because since I hold the title on Twitch, like a lot of people think I'm very conservative or a prude. So
mhm.
I'm going to ask you your honest opinion of DJ Honeyflow. Now I'm talking third person. Do you think I'm a prude? You know me best. Be honest.
You're actually asking me this.
Yeah.
Do I think you're a prude? I would say no. I'd say she's um, maybe a little more modest than some of the people on other people on Twitch. But a prude is like somebody who's like, how would we define that? I don't even know the definition. I know what it means, but
I
like,
thought you were gonna say yes. I'm just so shocked. I wouldn't mind if you said yes, because some of my friends do say yes.
I think being called a prude in this day and age is the highest compliment you can get.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, if you were like a good times, you know, oh, she's fun, she's a good time. That may not be the best thing really at the end of the day, but I mean, a prude, I would not call you a prude. No.
They don't call Father Damien a prude. I don't understand. Maybe I need to get a white collar like him or something. Like, why in the world they don't bug oh, actually, they do bug him. I can't even deny that. They really, really bug him a lot too. But it is kind of fun. Sometimes I join in and bug him. I'm sorry, Father Damien. I'm not really poking fun at you. I'm just doing it with you, kind of, because it's just fun. But I don't feel like they don't call him that. They should call him that. I'm just joking. But yeah, no, it was just funny because they talk about that and they ask me that question a lot. I think I'm just
Right.
different in this industry, and I think it's okay to be different, especially in
Mhm,
entertainment. You
mm,
see so many things like one way. I think it's okay to stand on like certain convictions or values, whether it's popular or not. I think in the end, this I don't know, I just feel like people really need it right now and they need the truth.
mhm,
Um, so I'd rather do that right now than just do some party, because I
mhm.
feel, especially with everything that's happened with what we're seeing like over the past year, right? And what you've seen too in your jobs too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciate, yeah, just our friendship. And it's been a great interview and just chilling with you, hanging out with you. And I want to thank everyone that's come through too today. I know it was a different kind of show. And I hope you guys got encouraged or learned something from it, and just have faith, like even if you don't believe in anything, just have faith that, like, tomorrow's going to be a better day. There's one thing that I will leave you with. um let's see here. I'm trying to think whether I should read it out or not. You
DJ
think I
Honeyflow, before
Yeah,
you continue, thank you for having me on.
yeah.
Thanks for wanting to even just engage like this and having the heart to do it. Like everyone on here knows she's got the biggest heart on Twitch. And,
Oh, thanks, I
you
appreciate
know,
that.
that is something that is so rare today. And to just being able to be vulnerable and share and really pour yourself out to this community. I know that there are people on here that genuinely like just really appreciate you. So I hope you know that. And like anytime you feel discouraged or like, oh, this is gonna be becoming so much, like I don't know what to do, just know that like, you know, this is sowing seeds in people's hearts. It's sowing seeds for the kingdom. It's sowing seeds, you know, just for people that really need someone when they have nobody.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that for sure, and
Mhm.
that is the mission. Um, so I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to rate out. But I'm just going to leave you guys with this. I'm going to leave you with one more verse, turning into my mom each day. But it
Love
was
it.
some, yeah, but it was something that actually really hit me hard. And I noticed this when I go out for walks, like, when I lost my job earlier on in the pandemic, and things were just like up and down, up and down. It was a crazy time. And then jumping in this virtual world and trying to make it work or make things happen. And they weren't really happening the way I wanted it to happen. And, I just remember going on these walks and I would see all these birds and all these birds. And it still amazes me. Like, I just went out the other day and it was really icy and cold, and all these birds are in the water and they have no worry in the world. Like, they're so
Mhm.
carefree. And I just started watching them, and I'm just like, I wonder how they find food. Like, it's freezing, and why didn't they fly out down south already, right? So anyways, this verse popped in my mind. Oh, okay, you don't have it plugged in? Okay, I'm going to let you go quickly, Christine.
No, finish your verse.
Okay, I'll just say this, but something that came to my mind and my heart, and I hope this is for one, even if it's for one person in this chat room, I hope it's for you guys today, but it's in Matthew 6:26. And it says, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin." Now, if God clothes the grass of the field, how, or sorry, let's see here. I just lost my point here. It says, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They never toil nor spin. Now, if God clothes the grass of the field, he will clothe and take care of you. Therefore, do not worry, saying, 'What shall I eat? What shall we drink? And what shall we wear?' For your heavenly Father knows that you need these things. But first seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." So I just leave you guys with that, because I just think about that a lot when I'm out in nature and I see birds and how they don't have to worry. They're not scurrying around and they're not afraid. They just, God provides for them. So I leave you guys with that too, that whatever it is you're going through, and even if you're just surviving the holidays this year, know that you're not alone. And he, if you look to him, he'll definitely take care of you as well. So we are going to raid out right now. Do you have a minute, Christine?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it dying? Pretty much dying out. Oh, I'm getting an echo here. Do you have two devices on right now?
No.
Okay, because I'm getting kind of an echo effect. But we're going to see who we can raid out to right now. And thank you again, Christine, for joining the show. I really appreciated it. And
Thanks for.
I'm not sure. I'm just looking at so many people here. Yeah. I'm trying to find someone we can raid to quickly.
Oh,
Actually, you know what? Yeah, thank you, One Original. I appreciate that. He says he loves the interview. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
What's that, Father Damien? I have a what? What is that? I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is, Christine?
No.
That he wrote there? I don't even know how to say the word. Yeah, I don't know what you mean, Father Damien. Oh, it's Italian bread. Why are you gonna say you got all this food? Like he still owes me a pie from Thanksgiving, guys, that he never gave me. He told me he ate it, hit the piece, and he was supposed to give it to me. Okay, guys, I'm just trying to find someone. I don't know. There's so many people here. I think maybe I wonder if we should just leave it and just not raid out tonight, actually, because I can't find anyone here. Okay, you know what, guys? I think we're just going to end it. Feel free to go to whoever you want. I don't think I'm going to actually raid out tonight, but I hope this interview blessed you in some way, and you kind of learned something from it. And just know that anytime you're worried, always just look up and always trust that he's got a bigger plan for you and your life, regardless of how difficult it may feel, especially around the holidays as well. Think of that verse that I just gave you as well. So we are going to end the broadcast now. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming through. And we'll definitely see you on these Twitch streets. I will be at Nordstrom this Friday, 12 to 5, and Boxing Day, 12 to 5 p.m. So I may stream if I have enough energy, then you may see me at Nordstrom streaming as well. All right. So thank you again, Christine. And we will definitely see each other soon then as well. Okay. Have a great night.
God
See you
bless.
guys.
Bye.